Part 8. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 71. Cultivate Taoism and Live Forever. Wu Yu's heart was roaring at this moment. Na Minglong looked at his stunned look, but couldn't help but be surprised, thinking, although this kid is stupid, but because of this, his mind is pure, and he has just condensed his energy, and he can get rid of his confusion, and has such a strong spiritual will, it points directly to attaining enlightenment and becoming an immortal. This character is completely consistent with the innocent heart of the Ruyi Golden Cudgel, but my mind is too confused. Senior Minglong, please teach me the great heavenly immortal technique. Wu Yu's eyes were firm and he looked at Minglong with tenacity. He was very grateful to Mingtong. Just tonight, he found the true goal of fighting for the future of his life. Become an immortal. Live as long as heaven. Beyond the 5 elements of heaven and earth, immortal. Be that, the eternally existing deity. He is afraid of death and does not want to die. Becoming an immortal is not easy. There have been hundreds of setbacks along the way. I almost succeeded, but I took a wrong step and fell into this eternal catastrophe. I can't survive or die. If you have this determination today, you must do a good job with me. Generally, prepare for disaster. The little girl Minglong suddenly became serious, and these words shocked Wu Yu's heart. Senior, I promised you that if I am lucky enough to become an immortal, I will also find a way to bring you back to life. Just keep it in your mind. Also, don't call me senior in the future. It's weird. Then what did you call me? Wu Yu respects her now. After all, she is the previous owner of the Golden Cudgel, and she is more likely to be his guide in the future. Mingtong tilted his head and thought for a long time, then muttered, "What are you calling me?" Grandma. It's okay to call yourself this, but it's disgusting to have others call you me. Girl, I'm not married yet, so I call you my mother? But I don't want to have such a cheap son. Then. After thinking for a long time, she was so entangled that she stamped her feet. Finally, she thought about it and said, "Remember when your grandma and I were the most beautiful in the world and unparalleled, so just call me Peerless Little Beauty." Wu Yu's eyes darkened. Although he couldn't shout, he fought hard for the grand immortal technique. That, the Peerless Little Beauty. Ugly human, what's the matter? Minglong held his head high, looking proud. Teach me the great immortal technique. Praise me first. You are stunningly beautiful and have a graceful figure. That. He really couldn't talk anymore. Wu Yu was still tied up and he was very anxious. Otherwise, it would be quite interesting to get along with Minglong. Okay, I won't tease you anymore. Great celestial magic. First of all, in the first step, Wu Yu had to transform his first magic source with this high-grade heavenly magic to create a kind of high-grade magic power. Build a more perfect source of law. From now on, if you want to open a new source of magic, you can directly use this great heavenly immortal technique to open it. When a series of formulas appeared in Minglong's mouth, Wu Yu discovered that this high-grade heavenly magic was actually somewhat different from the indestructible body of Vajra. In general, the indestructible body of Vajra is more domineering and destructive, and there is a will to reverse the world. However, the great immortal technique is more orthodox, pure, and upright. It is the cleanest and most flawless way between heaven and earth. One yin and one yang are called the Tao. The big products are complete and orthodox. Following Minglong's magic technique, Wu Yu quickly became immersed in the world of great celestial magic. Although using this grand immortal technique does not equal an increase in mana, it is a seed and a perfect start. Just like when Wu Yu used his indestructible body to perfectly open the mortal body forging state. The great immortal technique is even more endless and has vast variations. The magic source of Tanzong Point, the magic power and the whirlpool of magic power, driven by the formula of the great immortal technique, gave birth to a magical change. You have successfully condensed your qi, so it will be easier. What Wu Yu is doing now is just an introduction to the grand heavenly immortal technique, not even an introduction. This is the purest way of heaven. The true avenue. In the whirlpool of mana, one kind of mana, transformed and driven by the great heavenly magic, actually felt like it was dividing into two kinds, and then the two kinds melted into each other and regenerated each other. The speed of mana regeneration is so terrifying. As the saying goes, the intersection of yin and yang is the beginning of all things. In mana, there is a masculine part and a feminine part. The masculine power is rough and fierce, like the magic stick. The feminine power is wonderful, with various changes, like some wonderful Taoism. Of course, for ordinary people, mana is mana, integrated into one, and there is no distinction between yin and yang. But Wu Yu is different. In this world, he is probably the only one who is different. His source of magic is full of magic power, but under the forging of the great heavenly magic, there are yang currents and yin currents. The two merge with each other and then separate again. During this process, more mana can be born, allowing Wu Yu's magic source to generate billowing mana at a speed that is almost 3 times that of before. In terms of the power of mana, it seems to be more condensed and pure. It even has a wonderful artistic conception that even I can't understand. This high-quality mana is much better than ordinary mana. Of course, this does not exclude others from using other qi condensation techniques, the power of which exceeds the power of great magic power. However, the specialness of this big magic power does not lie in its simple power, but in its foundation. The differentiation of yin and yang brings about the terrifying power of regeneration. Its condensation, purity, and wonderful artistic conception can also be regarded as Wu Yu's future gains. Dao became immortal and opened up a broad road. This chapter is not finished yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. For the past whole day, Wu Yu had been immersed in that magical world of mana. He seemed to have come to an endless starry sky. In front of him was a nebula-like mana vortex. The yin and yang in the mana vortex differentiated and spewed out a huge torrent of mana. Each droplet splashed out, like a sundae. Elder sister. Wu Yu suddenly opened his eyes. A day passed and he quickly looked in the direction of the imperial city. Wu Yu was still tied there. She didn't eat or drink for a day, which was a huge drain on her body. At this time, her face was pale and her lips were dry, like a flower slowly growing under the scorching sunday withered. Oops. Wu Yu stood up and checked his own condition. The high-grade heavenly magic was so exquisite that Wu Yu's starting point was infinitely higher. The continuous flow of high-quality mana, coupled with the indestructible body of the King Kong, makes Wu Yu's will soar to the sky. Although his combat power may not be much stronger than it was a day ago, in terms of mental will, it gave Wu Yu a lot of courage. In the past, I did feel that I was from a humble background and could not compare with a man like Zhang Junlin who had been a proud man since he was a child. But now, deep down, he believes that he is even nobler than the other person. Why are you going? Ming Long appeared in front of him, stretched out his waist, and yawned, looking like he had just woken up. Save my sister. Seeing Wu Yu suffering there, he couldn't bear it for long. Even if he was no longer sure, he would always go. Puff. Ming Long couldn't help but sneer and said, although the other party is also a yellow-haired kid, he can't compare with you, right? Now I'm stupid and run over. You are crazy about wanting to go to the west. How about your grandma? It's easy to catch you, a stupid young man. We just met, can I let you just hang up like this? Although what she said was unpleasant, it was also logical. From what she meant, it seemed that there was a way to help him. Wu Yu quickly said, is there a way for you to help me rescue my sister? Ming Long raised his head and said with dignity, well, of course there is. Tell me. It's very simple, just make a deal with me. It's business again. This Minglong has been trapped in the Ruyi golden cudgel, and he is afraid that he will spend endless years with Wu Yu. Wu Yu has recognized the other party's existence and is ready to get along with him forever. However, the other party is obviously not that easy to deal with. What would you like? Minglong chuckled and said, the business I am doing now is all after I came back to life. Do you know what the asking divine pill is? Have no idea. It's just a coincidence that I don't know. I have a way for you to condense the second Dharma source in a short time, but you have to owe me a asking divine pill. When I come back to life, you have to use this give me a asking magic pill. How do I know if I will have this divine elixir? Don't worry, if it's possible for you to bring me back to life, I'll definitely have the magic pill. Minglong followed the instructions. In fact, she was overjoyed. I'm almost impressed by my own wit in doing business this way. With a small help, I got the God of Wonder pill. It's really a big profit. I'm going to make a fortune. Wu Yu hesitated for a moment. The disadvantage of doing business with her was that he didn't know what the so-called asking God pill was. If he had to give it to her if it was something important, he would probably regret it. Forget it, she is a poor person anyway, and she also gave me the great heavenly immortal technique. If it weren't for her, I don't know when I would get the great heavenly immortal technique. Besides, my sister's life is most important. This is the time when Wu Yu needs to break through his current level the most. He nodded and said, okay, the deal is done. I owe you a magic elixir of questioning. What do you think I should do? Minglong jumped up excitedly and was about to cheer. When she saw Wu Yu's serious face, she coughed twice and pretended to be mature and said, well, you have to leave here for a day. Leave. Then on this day, we can no longer pay attention to Wu Yu's life and death. This is a gamble. Then what? As soon as you started condensing qi, I actually woke up and followed you to the Xiang Mountains. The two of them took the sheng fruit, but the roots of this thing are not mortal things. Although they are poisonous, they are indeed effective. You have to get it, that thing can help you condense the second source of energy. Without further ado, Wu Yu thought about it in his heart. Even if he left for a day, he would still go. After all, this itself was a gamble. I'll go. /U003CE /U003E /U003CE /U003F. Follow the official QQ account 17K, ID, Love 17K, read early, and keep abreast of the latest information. /U003C /E /U003E /U003C /E /U003E. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 72. From now on, there is another Minglong in Wu Yu's life. It had only been 2 days, and he hadn't realized that her appearance might be the result of hundreds of years of getting along, or even longer. What he desires most now is to have the means to rescue Princess Wu Yu. Without further ado, Wu Yu rushed to the Xiang Mountains like crazy. You guys have no magic power and no simple Taoist skills. Can you teach me? It's a beautiful thought. After this time, not to mention the magic formula, even the original memory has been forgotten a lot. Then why do you remember the great immortal technique? Nonsense, I stay in this stick every day and watch it thousands of times. How can I still forget it? I see. Moreover, the two of them are now acquainted for the first time. The other party gave him the grand heavenly immortal technique, which was considered to be the most benevolent thing. Wu Yu firmly believes that if you want anything in this world, you have to pay for it. Minglong was very good. She proposed the asking divine pill. Otherwise Wu Yu would not have let her help him in vain. In terms of Taoism, you still need to return to Bibo Mountains and learn from Feng Xia. After condensing qi, pouring mana into his feet and causing a storm can increase Wu Yu's speed to a certain extent. The combination of flesh and mana will increase the speed even more. Therefore, Wu Yu arrived at the journey that took half a day in the past in 4 hours. On the cliff, the fruit has been taken away, leaving behind a dark rhizome. If you look closely, you can see that there are sharp and fine barbs on the rhizome, with a cold light shining on it. There were several dark birds lying on the ground. It was probably after Zhang Junlin left that the birds came to smell the fragrance, but were poisoned by the rhizome of the fruit. This stem is a good thing. If it is made into a poison elixir, it will not be a problem to poison 3 people at the 5th level of Qi condensation realm. Among Minglong's remaining memories, there is the existence of this birth fruit. The raw fruit is a fairy root level treasure, worth more than 100 Qi condensing pills. This stem is probably worth 30 Qi condensing pills. How should I collect it? After all, this stem is full of venom. Don't forget a divine elixir of asking questions, Minglong reminded her. She didn't want to help in vain. Don't worry, if there is any, I will definitely give it to you. Okay, you have to dig out all the roots first. Remember, don't touch it, otherwise I won't be able to save you. Good. Wu Yu smashed the nearby rocks with the demon-conquering stick, and the pitch-black rhizome rolled down as the rocks shattered. Although the stem was only 3 feet long, the root was dense and thick, more than 3 feet long, and was also full of venom. Then what? Wu Yu used the demon-subduing stick to pick up the stem. Calcining with fire. Burn off the venom. Is it that simple? Simple is simple, but without me, how would you know that this thing has magical effects? Let me tell you, a questioning magic pill is absolutely worth it. Alright. Although I don't know if this money fan is overjoyed, at least this thing has a great effect on Wu Yu now. There is a fire formation on the demon-subduing stick. When Wu Yu used his magic power to control the demon-subduing stick and instilled it into the formation, the demon-subduing stick burned with its scorching flames. Wu Yu reached forward with the demon-subduing stick and began to calcine. It can be seen that in the part burned by the flame, black gas rises up. All the surrounding vegetation that comes into contact with this black gas withers for a while. Birds passing by in the sky also fall in groups and die from poisoning. Even Wu Yu, standing on the side, was somewhat affected. Fortunately, his indestructible body was strong enough, so he endured it. How much longer? Keep burning. About an hour passed before Ming Tong finally asked him to stop. Wu Yu picked up the root and put it in the river to wash away. After all the dirt was washed away by the water, what appeared in front of him was the smooth, snow-white root. It contains rich spiritual energy of heaven and earth, surpassing all the immortals Wu Yu has ever seen. That's it? Minglong couldn't help but laugh, and got a magic elixir of asking questions. If this kid knew that a mountain of fruit could not be exchanged for a single Dao Shen Dan, would he cry? Thinking of this, Ming Tong smiled even more cunningly. What are you laughing at? Wu Yu saw her smiling strangely. Ming Tong said, what's wrong with my laughter? Girls who love to laugh will not have bad luck. Wu Yu gathered up these many fruit roots, which contained a large amount of spiritual energy and were extremely nourishing, and put them into the bag of me. Then he said no more and hurried back with all his strength. You can refine it here. I have to be in Wudu. He had to race against time, and he also had to take into account Wu Yu's situation. Don't worry. You have developed your Vajra indestructible body to the 1st level. Your foundation is unparalleled in the world. This little fruit rhizome is completely bearable. This rhizome is more effective than the Qi condensing pill. It only takes 2 days. You can open up the magic source of Shenting Point. Only the indestructible body of this Vajra can do this. If it were anyone else, after they had just succeeded in the 1st level of Qi condensation, even if they had a lot of Qi condensation pills, how could they dare to immediately activate the 2nd source of magic? If you are not careful, your magic power will collapse and it will turn into ashes. An ordinary physique, like that of Situ Ming Lang, would take at least a year to settle. Wu Yu worked tirelessly and ran all the way, and finally returned to Wu Du 4 hours later, returning to his previous position. Looking up, luckily Wu Yu was still in that position. Almost another day passed, and she became even weaker and was already dying. This chapter is not over, please click on the next page to continue reading. Wu Yu. This scene made him feel heartbroken. She probably had never suffered such a hardship in her life, while Zhang Junlin next to her still looked indifferent, playing with a fruit in his hand, waiting for Wu Yu to take the bait. Zhang Junlin. It was at this moment that Wu Yu had murderous intentions towards Zhang Junlin. In the past, when there was a huge disparity in status, he would not have dared. Sister, I won't keep you waiting too long. Wu Yu bit his lip. Although his eyes were about to burst into flames, the reality forced him to calm down. Now the turning point lies in the root of the fruit. He found a place in Wu capital where he could monitor Wu Yu's situation and was some distance away from Zhang Junlin, and he lurked here. The second source of law. Shenting Point is located at the hairline of the head, at the junction of the left and right frontalis muscles. Tanzong, Shenting, can be practiced to form a straight line. This second source of law needs to be opened in the Shenting appointment. Because it is on the head, you need to be more careful. If you don't control the magic power, you may explode your head directly. The root of the fruit. Wu Yu looked at the large group of fairy spirits in front of him that were emitting hazy white light and looked a bit like lotus roots. I really envy you. You can enjoy this worldly delicacy. Please God give me a mouth. I'm going crazy with hunger. Na Minglong jumped up and down, very crazy. What I hate most is people eating in front of me. She looked up to the sky and roared angrily, holding a pair of small fists. Wu Yu was not affected by her, but remained calm and focused. My sister is in danger, but there is only one way for me to save her, and that is to open this second source of magic. To understand this, his focus was entirely on this stem. Eat them. This is a natural fairy spirit. Generally speaking, if this kind of fairy spirit is taken directly, it is difficult to refine and absorb it, and its effectiveness is not as good as the qi condensing pill. But this stem is an exception. It may be due to the poisonous package, but the inside is very pure and white. The meaning of its existence should be to provide nutrients for the fruit. If these rhizomes are used to make elixirs and supplement other materials, there will be at least 60 of them, Minglong said. 60 pieces. Now it is a waste to use it to open the second magic source, but Wu Yu has no choice. He was just like eating sugar cane, absorbing and refining it at the same time. Minglong looked at it with drooling water and going crazy from time to time. In the end, he hid directly and should have returned to the Ruyi golden cudgel. Great heavenly immortal technique. Minglong said that this was the most powerful qi condensation technique in the world. Although he didn't know if he was bragging, at least Wu Yu now had a deep respect for this technique. Shenting Point. This time, there are sufficient resources for monasticism, fruit rhizomes. The value far exceeds 10 qi condensing pills. Great heavenly immortal technique, refined. Using this gate of yin and yang heavenly transformation, the power of the fairy spirit is powerfully locked in the Shenting appointment. Opening the magic source here, Wu Yu tried it and found that this high-grade heavenly magic was really too powerful. Under its guidance, all the power of the fairy entered the Shenting appointment without any waste. Well, the Shenting point expanded under the nourishment, and the mana vortex was also born under the impact. A sea of mana is opening up. He didn't have much time, so he sped up. If I succeed this time, I will be able to compare with senior sister Su when I return to the Bibo Mountains. They will also be surprised by my progress. Refining, refining. The number of fruit-bearing rhizomes before our eyes is constantly decreasing. The Shenting point was swollen. Because it opened too quickly, Wu Yu must have endured tremendous pressure. Now that he was mentally tense, if he made a wrong move, he would be dead. Even so, my head was still swollen and I even had a splitting headache. Hang in there. There is a clear path in my heart. That is, Wu Yu. He always remembered that Wu Yu was tied to the city wall, exposed to the sun and rain. It is indeed difficult to open two sources of magic in succession, but this boy does have a resilience. I got the treasure back then, but I didn't have this resilience. I was carefree and free, and ended up like this. Alas. Mingtaki sighed in the depths. Fortunately, after 1 yuan, this Ruyi golden cudgel chose a new owner, and I also have a chance to come back to life. However, even though I have such a high birth, I have not become an immortal. But how can he become an immortal in this barren land of Dongsheng Shenzhou? Time passed quickly. On this day, Princess Wu was in a trance, feeling that the whole world was going dark. /U003CE /U003E /U003CE /U003F. Follow the official QQ account 17K, ID, Love 17K, read early, and keep abreast of the latest information /U003C/E /U003E /U003C/E /U003E. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 73. Senior Brother Zhang, she is about to die. Yuan Chen didn't see Wu Yu coming until now, so he didn't have much patience anymore. Zhang Junlin opened one eye, glanced at Wu Yu lazily, and said, "No, this woman is very tough in her bones. She can't die even if she wants to. Are we going to wait like this? 5 days, more than half of it, I guess Wu Yu won't come." Although Zhang Junlin doesn't care about the life or death of Haoshan and the others, to Yuan Chen, this is like a thorn. If he doesn't pull it out, he will always feel uncomfortable. Is it possible that Wu Yu is nearby and wants to use these 5 days to increase his abilities? Zhang Junlin smiled, he felt that he was inseparable. In this case, if we don't put Wu Yu down, then Wu Yu will definitely appear, Yuan Chen said. Zhang Junlin pouted and said, "What if she dies as soon as she hangs herself?" Yuan Chen was a little anxious. Seeing that Zhang Junlin seemed to be paying close attention to Wu Yu, he said, "Senior Brother Zhang, you don't like this woman. Then I'll kill her." Presumptuous. Zhang Junlin glared, and Yuan Chen immediately took 3 steps back. He said seriously, "Yuan Chen, don't guess my thoughts. I don't need to explain to you what I want to do." "Yes." Yuan Chen trembled and secretly regretted it. In fact, he also understood that Zhang Junlin could not like Wu Yu. He was just very playful and liked to play this game. He had set the 5-day rule and everyone in the world was watching. "I want to see if she can survive for 5 days. Will she die?" Zhang Junlin smiled. He was aloof, as if he were teasing an ant. Anyway, he would die idle. It just depends on how many days the ant can last. The tenacity of Princess Wu attracted his attention. To him, this was an interesting ant, teasing her was interesting. "Come here and slap your back," Zhang Junlin ordered. "Yes." Yuan Chen stepped forward with skillful movements. Just as Zhang Junlin expected, Wu Yu was hiding in a corner of Wudu to gather the second source of magic. The combination of the high-level heavenly magic and the indestructible body of the Vajra greatly increases the speed at which I can condense the second magic source. It is based on the indestructible body of the Vajra, uses the Dapan celestial technique as its method, and uses the roots and stems of fruits as its resources. In just over 2 days, it was incredibly successful. What's so strange? Don't look at who the indestructible body of Vajra and the great celestial magic come from. Mingtaki looked not surprised. This speed was within her expectations. Now, all the foundations have finally been refined and gathered in the Shenting Point. The Shenting Point, forged by the great heavenly immortal technique, has constructed a perfect source of yin and yang. Tanzong Appointment and Shenting Appointment, two magic sources are formed, and the magic power flows between each other, blending and regenerating each other, making Wu Yu's magic power more majestic. In terms of attributes, it certainly surpasses the Xuanhuan Taoist scripture written by the immortal Haoshan. Mana born. Of course, the more important part is the speed at which its mana is born and the speed at which it absorbs the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, which are both extraordinary and unbelievable. Second level of Qi condensation realm, successful. Finally, I waited for this moment. I counted the time carefully and found that 4 days had passed. Fortunately, there is still 1 day left. Wu Yu, I can't wait too long. Looking from a distance, she was already in a very weak state, and until today, Wu Yu, her younger brother, was already incompetent. Condensing the Shenting Appointment was a terrifying process for Wu Yu. It needed to be done quickly and well. Even with the help of the Grand Immortal Technique and the Shenkyo Rhizome, he almost died. After the thrilling success, Wu Yu was ready to leave. Go now, Minglong asked. No more tricks. Minglong looked at Wu Yu with that malicious expression again. What's the meaning? It's not interesting, I just care about you. Tell me, if you were not careful and failed to take good care of your sister, causing her to lose her life, tell me, will you regret it for the rest of your life? Mingtong's big eyes were dazzling, and he could tell at a glance what he was planning. However, she was talking about Wu Yu's heart. That's right, there is no I in the battle, and there is Yuan Chen, so it is too difficult to protect Wu Yu. What can I do? There is a way, but this time I want 3 questioning pills. Mingtaki finally revealed his foxtail. Wu Yu felt that if he continued like this, he might be cheated in the future. 4 asking magic pills, who knows what they are? No, 1 at most he could only bargain. No need to discuss. Minglong's expression changed and he disappeared directly in front of Wu Yu. The other party's bargaining skills are indeed powerful. Wu Yu said, tell me first, how can you help me? Minglong didn't respond. She also has a stubborn temper and doesn't meet her standards, so it seems she won't let go. She seemed to have disappeared and refused to say anything. Wu Yu jumped onto a roof at this time. Taking a closer look, he knew that Zhang Junlin and the others probably didn't have much patience. The 5 days they gave Wu Yu to return had already passed. Almost there. Silly monkey, to tell you the truth, what grandma gave you today, 3 Dao Shen Dan, you absolutely cannot exchange for it. You must seize this opportunity. Minglong said unhurriedly. Then I believe you once. Wu Yu decided that since it was now a matter of Wu Yu's life and death, he would pay more. If he could survive this crisis, he would never do business with her again to avoid being cheated in the future. This chapter is not over, please click on the next page to continue reading. Minglong appeared in front of him, but this time his face was full of joy, his eyes were smiling like crescent moons, and he chirped, you are wise, today your grandma, I will teach you a shocking Taoist technique, it is a unique method that can only be used by gods. This is the most miraculous method of the great sage. Even I am only familiar with a few of them. At the beginning, I only used these few methods to kill the righteous people in the world, and they all turned into messes. Crisp and delicious. She probably didn't have such a warm evaluation of the great celestial arts. Wu Yu was vaguely looking forward to it. Let's think of this technique as a Taoist technique. In fact, I think it is already a method used by immortals. Its full name is 72 Transformations, also known as Earth Transformation Technique. 72 Changes. That's right, this immortal method is composed of 72 magical and mysterious methods that can destroy the heaven and earth, understand yin and yang, travel through the void, and undergo myriad changes. It is simply a peerless method that even gods can't find. Compared with Vajra immortality, the bad body and the grand immortal technique are 10 times more precious, but they are also dozens of times more advanced. When I was at my peak, I only vaguely knew a few of these methods, but their effectiveness has exceeded all my methods. They were some of my strongest Taoist techniques at that time. At the peak of Minglong's life, she should have almost become an immortal. When she was almost an immortal, she could only master a few of them, and the remaining 60 kinds could not be understood. This shows how terrifying this method is. He looked at Wu in the imperial city, shook his head and said, I just condensed my qi just now, so I probably can't understand this kind of Taoism. Minglong smiled mysteriously and said, don't worry, since I brought it up, I will find a way for you to understand. To be honest, we mortals cannot understand the principle of the 72 transformations, but the great sage leaving this inheritance will help us get started, right? So, during the process of thinking, I found that starting from the Qi condensation realm, every major realm can be learned under the guidance of the great sage. An art of change. In other words, if you can learn one skill in the Qi condensation realm, you can learn another skill after you achieve the golden elixir Dao, Wu Yu understood. But, how does the great sage provide guidance? Boy, 3 questioning divine pills will not let you spend your money in vain. When someone used 10,000 questioning divine pills to exchange for a change technique with me, I wouldn't even change it. Minglong put his hands on his hips and said, Wu Yu's expression was flattering. I'll change. Wu Yu estimated in his mind that if he could learn this kind of technique, it would definitely be a box pressing skill, which could be regarded as a real life-saving method. Only one discipline can be practiced in the entire Qi condensation realm, which shows how precious it is. In this way, the great sage must be a real immortal. The method left by this immortal must be the immortal method. The great sage has good intentions. In order to make us strong, he came to guide us to practice this, the art of change. Wu Yu was filled with shock. He originally thought that the Ruyi golden cudgel was just a simple inheritance and was not special. He did not expect that the Monkey King might be a real immortal. This must be a first-class inheritance for the entire world. Even Master underestimates my inheritance. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but get excited. From this point of view, his future path to immortality is indeed extremely broad, and he also has Minglong as his escort. That peerless little beauty, that great sage, is a real immortal, a heavenly immortal, right? Wu Yu asked cautiously. Nonsense. Minglong rolled his eyes. If Wu Yu hadn't been a frog in the well, he wouldn't have asked such a question. I actually got the inheritance from the heavenly gods. This is great news. Don't be too happy too early. You are so weak. If you are killed, it will be all in vain. The reason why I want to teach you the art of transformation is to give you a way to save your life, Minglong said with disdain. It was as if Wu Yu didn't have to pay 3 asking divine pills. Okay, I've made a selection and selected one of the several transformation techniques I know that is most suitable for you to save your life now. Wu Yu couldn't wait to know. This is one of the 72 changes, and it is the fixation change. Its name is, body fixation technique. The body holding technique. Listening to this name, it seems that it can immobilize people and prevent them from moving. That's right, it's the body holding technique. When Minglong talked about this body fixing technique, he began to talk non-stop, saying, this body fixing technique is really awesome. Although it consumes a lot of mana, think about it, when you are fighting, you are having fun. You suddenly use this immobilization technique to immobilize the opponent, and the opponent will be unable to move for a while. Are you killing them like searching for something? Think about it, at least 10 masters surrounded me, and I immobilized 2 of them. In just a moment, I let these 2 go. It's all gone. Will you really be unable to move? To Wu Yu, this was simply unbelievable. How could such a Taoist magic exist in this world? Of course. But that's me, not you. It's still a long way for you to reach my level of cultivation. Even with the help of the great sage, you can only achieve a small success at most. After that, your mana will be lower than yours opponent, you can hold it for more than an hour. For an opponent with the same mana as you can hold it for 3 breaths of time. If your mana power is 1 level higher than yours, you can hold it for 1 breath of time. If your mana power is 2 levels higher than yours, you can hold it for 1 moment. If you have 3 levels, you can only stand still. Although Mingtong said it very easily, Wu Yu was already frightened. These 72 changes, this fixed change, the body holding technique, are really unparalleled in the world. For example, if he were to fight Immortal Xuanhuan now, and the opponent was 1 level higher than Wu Yu would directly determine his breath time, and he would have killed him several times before. Besides, the holding technique consumes mana. If you can hold it once or twice in a day, it's considered good. There are many mysteries in the 72 transformations, so stay tuned. /U003CE /U003E /U003CE /U003F. Follow the official QQ account 17K, ID, Love 17K, read early, and keep abreast of the latest information. /U003C /E /U003E /U003C /E /U003E. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 74. 4 days without food or water, exposed to the sun and rain, is not something ordinary people can bear. If Wu Yu hadn't been using fairy spirits and martial arts to help Wu Yu recuperate her body during these days, she would have died here. Fortunately, the weather has been nice these days. However, if you look carefully, you can still find that Wu Yu's face is pale, his lips are chapped, and he can no longer hold on. However, even so, she still did not beg for mercy, and was even a little lucky, because just as she expected, Wu Yu did not show up rashly and come here to die. With less than half a day left, how can I learn this body holding technique? Wu Yu's heart boiled with anger, and his endurance to this day was already his limit. If he hadn't wanted Wu Yu to live 10,000 times, with his personality, he wouldn't have been able to endure it until now. Minglong was not in a hurry, and said slowly, "Don't worry, just recite the mantra with me, and the great sage will naturally appear and guide you on the basic methods. If you want to use it initially, it will only take a moment. If you want, Xiao Chang, then you need to practice hard all year round." A moment. Wu Yu didn't believe it. Such a heaven-defying method, a fixed change, and a body-holding technique could only be possessed in 1 moment. If you weren't his descendant, you wouldn't be able to learn it even in a moment, not even in 10 million years. Minglong rolled his eyes as if he had read through his mind. "Read as I am. Good." Wu Yu took one last look at Wu Yu and secretly prayed that she could last a little longer. Stabilize the energy and spirit, spin the sun and the moon, pour out the clear springs, look back and see the inner light, dragons and tigers run, absorb the essence and replenish the marrow, return to the original state, the sky is round and the earth is far away, enter the trance. There were about a few hundred words in this formula, and Wu Yu followed Minglong and recited each word one by one. Inadvertently, he closed his eyes. He didn't find it strange at first. As time passed and about 100 words passed, he felt a thunderous feeling every time he read out a word. It was like an enlightenment. Invisibly, as if leaving one world and arriving in another world. Oops. Suddenly, a world full of golden flames appeared in front of him. There were hundreds of shining words tumbling in the flames, and those were exactly the words Minglong wanted Wu Yu to read. Boom boom boom. When the words moved, they made a roaring sound, and within a short time, they condensed into a human shape in front of Wu Yu's eyes. If you look more clearly, you can see that this is not a golden human form, but the unparalleled Monkey King that appears in the mental ape. That armor, those boots, the feathers on his head, and that blood-red cloak are all brave, mighty, and truly unparalleled. Give it to me, said it. The peerless Monkey King put his palm in front of his mouth and blew forward. The countless burning golden flames suddenly stopped completely, as if they had turned into a painting. This is the body fixation technique. Before Wu Yu could react from the shock, the mighty golden ape appeared in front of Wu Yu. He stretched out his hand, and there seemed to be a golden symbol that entered between Wu Yu's eyebrows and disappeared in the blink of an eye. But Wu Yu understood that something seemed to have entered his body. That is the seed of the body holding technique. With this kind of talent, it will be possible to use this body fixing technique in the future. Boom. Suddenly, the unparalleled Monkey King and the countless golden flames disappeared in front of Wu Yu's eyes. What appeared in front of him was Wu Du. But the shocking scene just now will probably never be forgotten in my lifetime. Who is this Monkey King, who is so domineering? I'm afraid I can only ask Minglong these questions after Wu Yu is rescued. Wu Yu still had many questions in his mind. Okay, you sink your mind into it, and I guess you can use the body fixation technique. Of course, don't expect it to be too effective. You still don't know anything about it now. You are just getting started, Minglong said. Wu Yu naturally knew that in fact, whether it was the indestructible body of the Vajra, the high-level heavenly immortal technique, or the body-holding technique, he had just started to learn it. He knew what was going on. Opening your eyes, less than a quarter of an hour has passed. Zhang Junlin, Yuan Chen. Finally, at this moment, no matter what Minglong said, Wu Yu would ignore it. He directly took hold of the demon-subduing stick and set off in the direction of the imperial city. There was only Wu Yu in his field of vision. To be honest, during the past 5 days, many people stayed nearby and looked at Wu Yu with distress. Some martial arts people even came forward to reason, but Zhang Junlin was killed. Now tens of thousands of people are still around. Watch. Now that the time has come, I'm afraid Prince Yu won't come. Don't talk nonsense, Prince Yu is definitely not such a person. When Wu Yu passed by, he heard various discussions. Whoosh. In an instant, Wu Yu landed in the open space outside the gate of the imperial city. The vibration of his feet on the ground made the dead Wu Du suddenly come to life. Minglong didn't speak either. It's Prince Yu. Prince Yu has indeed arrived. For a moment, the city of Wu was in a state of excitement. After the news spread, many people came forward. Now the ones they trust and love the most are Wu Yu and his brother. Of course, they hope that they can survive this disaster. Wu Yu. The majestic voice swept across, and Wu Yu, Zhang Junlin and others certainly noticed Wu Yu's arrival. In fact, for them as cultivators, 5 days is just a blink of an eye, and Wu Yu's appearance is not unexpected. This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading. You are finally here, I think this woman is almost dead. Zhang Junlin fell lightly from the city wall, about 100 feet away from Wu Yu. Yuan Chen still stayed on the city wall, with a cold light flashing in his eyes. Just a few days ago, his parents and brothers all died in Wu Yu's hands. Brother Zhang. Cut off his head and hang it here. Yuan Chen couldn't suppress the fire in his heart when he saw Wu Yu. He couldn't be as relaxed as Zhang Junlin, after all, this was a blood relationship. In a trance, Wu Yu reluctantly opened her eyes. When she saw Wu Yu, she could only smile bitterly. In fact, She had known for a long time that with Wu Yu's personality, it was impossible for him to forbear. Even if he was late, there must be a reason. Sister Wu Yu looked at her. There was only heartache in his heart, and endless anger towards Zhang Junlin. He didn't want to provoke Zhang Junlin before, but when he saw Wu Yu's embarrassed and weak appearance, she was Wu Yu's only relative now, and the sister who grew up with him, this scene made him unbearable. "You, let's go," Wu Yu said in a hoarse and weak voice. However, saying such words at this time was just in vain. Wu Yu was very clear that the status of Haoshan Shangxian and Zhang Junlin was huge. If Haoshan was killed, no one might care, but if Zhang Junlin was provoked, it would be a big deal. Bang! One end of Wu Yu's demon-subduing stick fell to the ground, and immediately a piece of bluestone floor under his feet was completely cracked. He. Zhang Junlin smiled faintly, staring at Wu Yu, and was floating towards Wu Yu. He was indeed at the 4th level of Qi condensation realm, almost at the 5th level of Qi condensation realm. The existence of the 4 sources of energy brought a terrifying pressure to Wu Yu during the process of advancing. In terms of mana, the opponent was indeed at a crushing level, almost twice that of Wu Yu. Buzz! Wherever he went, although he did not take action, the ground collapsed one after another. The flying fox fur coat made him more noble and domineering. For a moment, everyone was suffocated. Nothing to say, take action. Wu Yu kicked the ground and immediately rushed towards Zhang Junlin like an arrow from a string. The white and gold figures approached each other rapidly, and they were about to collide. Exciting. At this time, on the other side, Wu Yu is here, you are useless. When Wu Yu and Zhang Junlin were about to collide with each other, Yuan Chen on the wall fell around Wu Yu. He took a look at the battlefield, and then took out his magic spear to cut off the vines wrapped around Wu Yu. Once the vines were broken, Wu Yu would definitely be hanged in front of Wu Yu like Yuan 11 and Yuan Hao. Wu Yu was always paying attention to the movement over there, and of course he saw this scene. In fact, he expected Yuan Chen to do this. After all, the only purpose of Wu Yu's existence was to attract Wu Yu. However, in front of Wu Yu, Zhang Junlin came to kill him in full force, and at this time he was already blocking Wu Yu's eyes. If Wu Yu wanted to save Princess Wu Yu, he had to get past Zhang Junlin. However, with Zhang Junlin's ability, how could he let Wu Yu succeed? This was a dead end. Even the children in Wuda could see that this time, their beloved Princess Wu Yu was going to die completely. Many people's eyes were red. This kind princess has helped too many people. To this day, Wu Yu Palace has adopted many orphans. Princess. There are still many martial artists with the 2nd and 3rd levels of martial arts. For Wu Yu, they are here to guard here. They are all willing to be flower protectors and dedicate their martial arts to Wu Yu. They have not left in the past few days, and several of them have died. At this time, they can't care about anything and rushed over there, but no matter what, they will not be Yuan Chen's opponent. A critical moment. Wu Yu's eyes were almost blocked by the tall Zhang Junlin. His eyes were wide open, watching that Yuan Chen had already cut off most of the vines at this time, and the powerless Wu Yu was already shaking. What are you looking at so much for? Your opponent is me, Zhang Junlin. Zhang Junlin smiled evilly and opened his arms to block Wu Yu's sight. This was the moment when the two of them were about to collide with each other. At that moment, a symbol flashed between Wu Yu's eyebrows. He recalled the movements, expressions, and all the subtle details of the peerless Monkey King during the flame time. The mystery of the immobilization technique was looming, as if he understood it, but he didn't. All of this, just based on Wu Yu's most nervous mood at the moment, under this intense urging, seemed to come to his mind. Give it to me, immobilize. /U003CE /U003E /U003CE /U003F. Follow the official QQ public account 17K, ID, Love 17K, read it first, and get the latest information at any time /u003c/e/u003e/u003c/e/u003e. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 75. Certainly. This word is a kind of mystery. As far as Wu Yu knew, the effectiveness of the holding technique was related to his own understanding, the opponent's level of mana, and the distance. In fact, it was also related to the distance. The closer you are, the stronger the effectiveness of the body fixing technique will naturally be. Therefore, even though Zhang Junlin's magic power was 2 levels higher than his own, Wu Yu still chose him. This was the first time he used the body fixing technique. Just like the great sage, he just blew it. In fact, nothing blew out. But Wu Yu knew that he succeeded. This is just a try. As Mingtaki said, he is still far away from the true body holding technique. Now he can only imitate it, rely on the seeds of the body holding technique, and perform it once. There is only form, but no spirit. However, after all, the opponent is also in the chi condensation realm. With the transcendent attribute of the body holding technique, just imitating it will be effective. Zhang Junlin never expected that at that moment his body would be completely restricted. His hands, feet, and even his magic power seemed to be tied up, making him unable to move. Although it was only for a moment, the impact was huge. What's going on? In fact, he did not expect that this would be Wu Yu's method. After all, this is unbelievable. Fortunately, that feeling of stagnation and being locked passed in an instant. Once this is over, everything will be smoother. However, in just such a split second, Wu Yu actually passed by him. It almost rushed under his arm. Whoosh! The body holding technique was successful. Wu Yu's blood boils. At the moment of success, he rushed past Zhang Junlin, and the demon subduing stick in his hand was thrown away by Wu Yu. The demon subduing stick was like an arrow from a string. Under Wu Yu's full strength, it turned into a golden light at a terrifying speed. Goodbye, Wu Yu. At this time, Yuan Chen was about to break the last vine. Bite! Suddenly, a golden light flashed and inserted into his chest with a pop, and then with a loud snap, more than half of the demon subduing stick was inserted into the city wall. Well. Yuan Chen looked down at the thick stick on his chest. He was a little stunned for a moment, but the pain that followed was overwhelming. The power of the stick was huge, constantly destroying his internal organs, and even breaking his bones, leaving him caught in a death spiral. Zhang, senior brother Zhang, save me. Yuan Chen's mouth was gushing with blood and his face was pale. He stretched out his hands desperately. At this time, Zhang Junlin had just turned around, but Wu Yu had already rushed to his side, saved Wu Yu, and took back the demon subduing stick with one hand. At that moment, Yuan Chen's body crashed down and landed on the bluestone floor with a bang, almost shattering into pieces. Well. With a tilt of his head, Yuan Chen lost his breath. The last scene in his field of vision was Wu Yu holding Wu Yu and falling to the ground. Wu Yu was leaning on his shoulder. Although she was tired, she was at least still alive. Yuan Chen. Wu Yu glanced at him and actually had no intention of killing him, but since he had to kill Wu Yu and the situation was so urgent, Wu Yu had no choice but to take a heavy shot. Otherwise, if Yuan Chen still had some strength, Wu Yu would be the one who died. At that moment, there was no room for error. Escape. After saving Wu Yu, it was considered a success. This was completely the magical effect of the body holding technique. Wu Yu hugged Wu Yu and left quickly. After taking only a few steps, Zhang Junlin caught up with him. You can't escape if you take me with you, Wu Yu said weakly in his ear. Indeed, Zhang Junlin's speed was already faster than Wu Yu's, and Wu Yu was still taking Wu Yu with him, which would definitely affect his speed and fight, making him unable to escape at all. Faced with this fact, Wu Yu could only change his strategy. I have already rescued you, how can I abandon you? He then changed direction. In front of him was a group of martial arts people who had just approached. Among them was a 4th-level martial artist who was Wu Yu's confidant. Wu Yu had known him before and was a trustworthy person. Wu Yu said nothing. Threw Wu Yu to him, and said, "Take her away first, stay far away, and let her recover." Yes. Those people were originally in despair, but now that they saw that Wu Yu had life, they burst into tears. Even the people in Wudu wanted to help. They got out of the way for a while and prepared carriages, food, etc., so that Wu Yu could temporarily stay away from the battlefield. "You don't have to let me leave Wudu, just give me some food and bedding," Wu Yu said very weakly. "But Prince Yu said to stay farther away." "It's useless. If he loses, it won't matter where I escape." If Wu Yu died in the battle, she certainly didn't want to live alone. Everyone took her back to Wu Yu Palace, where they could generally know the battle situation over there and could also rest. What Wu Yu needed most now was to recuperate. These 4 days had been a hellish torture. The moment Wu Yu left, Wu Yu blocked Zhang Junlin. At this time, Zhang Junlin stopped chasing. He fell beside Yuan Chen, half knelt on the ground, stretched out his broad palm, and placed it on Yuan Chen's blood-on face. "Kill Yuan Chen, I'm afraid he will be angry." Wu Yu could clearly feel that Zhang Junlin's aura and murderous intent were violently increasing. He was like a sleeping tiger, and it was only now that he really woke up, even bringing a terrible crisis to the entire Wu city. "Yuan Chen." Zhang Junlin hesitated for a moment, then helped Yuan Chen close his eyes and said, "Don't worry, I will let you go in peace." From this point of view, if he had to fight to the end today, Zhang Junlin would not let Wu Yu leave easily. In the past, he was just having fun and never got angry, but now it has been broken, making Zhang Junlin really have murderous intentions towards Wu Yu. Oops. At this moment, Zhang Junlin stood up. "Everyone, please go back to your homes first and stop watching." Zhang Junlin was furious, which was naturally terrifying. Wu Yu was worried that he would take action against the people of Wudu, so he warned everyone. Everyone understood what he meant, and they all left immediately. Only some brave people dared to watch from a distance. What is the origin of this great immortal, so that even Prince Yu is afraid of him? I don't know. It is said that Prince Yuan Chen brought him back. His status is much higher than that of Immortal Haoshan. He is a big shot in Immortal Mountain. Then, Prince Yu killed Yuan Chen, which will cause trouble. For a moment, Wudu seemed to be on fire, sweeping the entire city. Wu Yu. Zhang Junlin stood up, with a stern look in his eyes. He took off his fox fur coat, revealing his mighty and strong body. Although he is a monk, his body is also extremely threatening. Obviously his physical quality is quite good. Compared with the old system of Haoshan Immortal, he is much stronger. Zhang Junlin, to be honest, I don't want to be your enemy. I am a disciple of Feng Xiya. The conflict between us is a conflict between two factions. It is unnecessary. Although Zhang Junlin put Wu Yu in such danger, Wu Yu had already killed the ghost lady and caused some trouble for the Tongtian sword section. His intuition told him that it was best not to let this conflict go deeper. The disciples of Feng Xiya are just nothing in my eyes. If you kill Yuan Chen, you have no other choice but to be buried with him. Zhang Junlin's voice was cold, and the cold murderous intention was already coming towards him. It seemed that he already knew Wu Yu's identity before Wu Yu explained it. You are well aware of my conflict with their family, but it has nothing to do with you. If you insist on fighting, I will decide the winner with you. Although Wu Yu feels there is no need to fight to the death, he is not afraid of him. Who wants to decide the outcome with you? I want to decide life and death with you. Zhang Junlin grinned. He had been cruel since he was a child. In the Yuan Dao sect, he was the dominant one. No one dared to mess with the younger generation. Even many elders have to please him. He can have the final say on more than 70% of things. In Wudu, before Wu Yu killed Yuan Chen, in Zhang Junlin's eyes, Wu Yu was nothing. It was only now that he really caught his eye and was the person he wanted to destroy. Then I'll stay with you until the end. That being the case, there's not much to say. After achieving the second level of qi condensation, so far, Wu Yu has not personally tried it. How far has he reached? The holding technique indeed consumes mana. However, after the stalemate for this period of time, the yin and yang mana vortex of the great heavenly immortal technique recovered quickly, and I have already recovered. What he just said also has the effect of delaying time. Buzz. Wu Yu's demon subduing stick was turning in his hand, and a domineering aura emerged, standing in stark contrast to Zhang Junlin's murderous intent. It is now evening, and it is about to turn into darkness today. The streets of Wudu are deserted, but in fact everyone is hiding, looking at the battlefield in the distance, where the two immortals are fighting. Snored. Then Zhang Junlin must have a lot of valuable treasures on his body. At this time, his right hand took out a magic weapon from the Mi's bag. Wu Yu looked at it carefully, and it turned out to be a golden ruler, about 2 fingers wide and 2 feet long, with many things on it. The carving should be a palace, and a magic circle can be clearly seen on it, which is composed of several floating golden words. What a powerful magic weapon! As soon as the golden ruler came out, there was a strong golden aura that exploded towards the surroundings. Zhang Junlin just waved his hand, and the surrounding area was filled with aura. This is a magical weapon with a gold attribute, called the Guild Ruler. They are both magic weapons, but their quality is obviously higher than Wu Yu's demon subduing stick. The array is vast, domineering, and has terrifying murderous intent. In fact, Wu Yu discovered that Zhang Junlin was very similar to himself. The attributes he was good at tended to be metal and fire. This Guild Ruler was a magical weapon that was very suitable for Zhang Junlin. But this was not the only one. When Wu Yu was still afraid of the Gilded Ruler, a fiery red bead appeared on Zhang Junlin's other hand. The first volume is about to end. Next volume 4 Directions God War. Officially entering the Immortal War. /U003CE /U003E /U003CE /U003F. Follow the official QQ account 17K, ID, Love 17K, read early, and keep abreast of the latest information /U003C/E /U003E /U003C/E /U003E. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 76. The fire of the bead rose up, and as soon as it appeared, a trace of flame was born. The flame was extremely terrifying. In just a short trace, the surrounding land, vegetation, and trees were scorched black. If Zhang Junlin's clothes were not made of special materials, this would have been impossible. It will probably burn out in time. This is the gathering fire bead. When Wu Yu didn't know about this thing at all, Na Minglong said something. Obviously, this is a magic weapon, and it looks more terrifying than the Gilded Ruler. What's the use? Taiwan Novel Network Rightward arrow. He can usually inject flames into it and release it in an instant, which can burn down the city, Minglong said casually. So terrible. Wu Yu understood that this was the difficulty of fighting such a noble cultivator. There was no telling how many treasures hidden at the bottom of the opponent's bag, many of which were fatal. The fire-gathering bead was held in Zhang Junlin's hand, and it seemed that it would not be released easily. If you push him to the extreme, it is possible to release the power of the fire-gathering pearl. Wu Yu always kept this matter in mind, as it affected hundreds of thousands of people in Wudu. Buzz. At this moment, Zhang Junlin didn't say anything, just smiled cruelly, and then attacked. At that moment, it was like flying sand and stones. Flames and golden light swept across instantly. Bone-attached fire. Before the two fought, Zhang Junlin stretched out his gilded ruler, and with just that, the bone-attached fire began to burn on Wu Yu's body again. For a moment, the body was burned with fire, and there was a terrible sting all over the body. Does this feel good? Zhang Junlin stepped forward instantly, and the gilded ruler was already coming. To be honest, Taoist techniques such as bone-attached fire are really difficult to fight against. Wu Yu has not learned other Taoist techniques. At this time, he can only hold back the power of bone-attached fire, dedicate part of his mana, and condense it into a barrier to block the bone-attached fire continued to burn into the inside of the body. When, in a short period of time, Wu Yu's evil demon stick and Zhang Junlin's bone-attached fire almost collided several times. The opponent was supported by powerful magic power and was extremely powerful. The aura of the gilded ruler splashed everywhere, and some of it penetrated Wu Yu. His body was only blocked by his indestructible body. Immortal ape transformation. There should be no reservations in fighting this Zhang Junlin. When night fell, Wu Yu transformed into the majestic golden ape, violent and cruel. In this way, although the bone-attached fire burned happily, it was difficult to penetrate Wu Yu's body and burn into his internal organs. Roar. After the immortal ape transformation, the mania in his heart was difficult to control at all. If there are many Taoist techniques, I can just fight with him. Then I will need this uncontrollable immortal ape transformation. After the change, Wu Yu persisted like a violent beast. With the physical distance and the mana from the two sources, he could really resist Zhang Junlin. The two fought here, with loud noises erupting, and most of the walls of the imperial city collapsed under their impact. Boom boom boom. For a moment, smoke and dust were flying, and rubble was rising into the sky. I didn't expect that Wu Yu actually opened two sources of energy. How is this possible? Then Zhang Junlin realized that he had really underestimated Wu Yu. He remembered that Wu Yu had just condensed his qi. After fighting several times, he felt deeply unbelievable. Even so what? He has opened the four sources of passion. He has a treasure. If this is the case, even Wu Yu can't be killed. How can he have the dignity to go back to Xuanhuan Dao sect, and how can he face the dead Yuan Chen? Whoosh! Then Zhang Junlin flew into the sky, and the gilt ruler in his hand burst out with bright light, just like the scorching sun in the sky above Wu Yu. This was the result of the formation diagram being activated. Try my Xuanhuan Dao sect's god-destroying technique from above. Buzz! The gilt ruler was like a long sword, slashing down violently. The dazzling light obscured Wu Yu's sight. The whole world was golden, and he had no idea where the real murderous intention was. Sharp. At this moment, Wu Yu's life was truly threatened. This above-mentioned decapitation technique specializes in beheading, and it does so from an incredible angle. If you can't find where the murderous intention of the opponent is, you may lose your head when you are stunned. Minglong has just woken up, and my monastic career has just begun. This vast world is waiting for me, Wu Yu, to take the inheritance of the great sage and Minglong's wish to explore. In my heart, there are so many things I long to do. It happened that at this time, Zhang Junlin had opposed himself several times. Not to mention the previous humiliation, at this time, he still wanted to block his way to the immortal road. He wants to kill himself. Die. Faintly, Zhang Junlin's contemptuous voice was heard. He hunts in robes and is extremely powerful. Where is the murderous intention? Wu Yu raised his head. I'm afraid, life and death are on this line. There is a cold feeling on the neck, like God's murderous intention, which cannot be avoided. The demon subduing stick in his hand was so hot. If he is God, and this is God's judgment, then I will pierce the sky. In the dark, blessing comes to the soul. The golden light was so dazzling that his eyes were useless at this moment. Don't look with your eyes, feel the trajectory of the opponent's power with your heart. Although Ming Long was chirping, he was still kind-hearted at the critical moment and gave Wu Yu a guide. The trajectory of mana. That's right, it's mana. You can't see it with your eyes, but you can feel the opponent's magic power through your own magic power. There's no way to hide that kind of trajectory. He's right here. This chapter is not finished yet. Please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. A magic stick. Wu Yu shouted loudly, took action decisively, aimed his stick into the sky, and aimed at a certain position, resolutely, without hesitation, and accomplished it in one go. If he misses with his stick, his head will be dislocated. However, in addition to the courage to practice Taoism, Wu Yu also had the belief to cultivate Taoism and become an immortal. He was decisive and resolute. He found the real location of the opponent's murderous intention in an instant. This requires a firm belief to take such decisive action. When? A sharp stab. Sure enough, the demon-subduing stick blocked the deadly murderous intention of the gold-plated ruler with the magic stick, and the majestic killing force knocked Zhang Junlin away. He fell to the ground, staggered, and almost fell to the ground. You were able to break the divine slaying technique in Tang Tang Shang. How did you do it? Zhang Junlin's face was filled with shock. This was the second time he felt Wu Yu's incredible power, and he suddenly understood that this turned out to be a terrifying opponent. We must let him die here. Otherwise, it will be a huge trouble for Zhongyuan and Daozong in the future. Zhang Junlin's eyes showed murderous intent, but at this time, Wu Yu opened his eyes were still violent and filled with terrifying wildness. Without saying a word, he rammed into Zhang Junlin like a cannonball. Boom boom boom. The two fought again for several rounds, and this time Wu Yu's confidence increased greatly. The huge force of the majestic body made Zhang Junlin retreat continuously, and Zhang Junlin's face became increasingly ugly. He's going to use the fire-gathering bead. When Wu Yu saw the change in his eyes, he understood. In fact, this time we have to thank Ming Long. Without him, Wu Yu would not have been able to have the means to confront Zhang Junlin head-on. Once the fire-gathering pearl is released, it will be the end of the entire Wu city. Although Zhang Junlin doesn't care, Wu Yu cares deeply. This is his home since he was a child. Since the Immortal Ape transformation battle, a lot of mana has been consumed. Can I still use the immobilization technique? Even if I use it, I'm afraid it will use up all my strength. If I can't control the opponent, not only will I die, I'm afraid Wu Yu will also perish. Although the body holding technique is an extremely powerful technique, it is not that easy to use. Firstly, I don't know whether it can be successful, because I am not completely proficient, so there is a problem of probability. Secondly, it consumes too much power. Fortunately, Wu Yu still has physical strength. At this moment, Zhang Junlin looked sinister and was about to open his palms and release the fire-gathering beads. Order it for me. Wu Yu made a decisive choice. For the sake of Wu Yu, he chose to take risks. At this moment, he seemed to see the unparalleled Monkey King in the blazing flames again, and felt the mystery of the body-holding technique. Surprisingly, it was successful again. Ming Long was a little surprised. When she first started learning, she had never succeeded twice in a row. This is actually very difficult to do. What Wu Yu felt was that the mana from his two body sources had almost exhausted the body-holding technique. All of a sudden, all that was left was the strength of the physical body. At this moment, Wu Yu was right in front of Zhang Junlin. The demon-suppressing stick, with the will of the divine stick, suddenly smashed down. Zhang Junlin sneered, about to release the fire-gathering pearl. In an instant, Wu Yu took a breath and jumped on Zhang Junlin. What's going on? Zhang Junlin was stunned for a small moment. Before he could take a breath or even blink, he felt that this was an illusion. But it was this illusion that made him slow down a little bit. Snap! A little slowness, and Wu Yu hit him on the shoulder with a stick. Click! Shoulder bone shattered. At that moment, Zhang Junlin screamed in pain, and the fire-gathering bead in his hand suddenly let go. The arm was broken, and it was obvious that it could no longer be used in a short time. At this time, Wu Yu was already prepared. He reached out and grabbed the fire-gathering bead. Zhu took this magical weapon as his own, and then hit Zhang Junlin on the chest with another stick. Click! This time, the sternum was broken. Zhang Junlin rolled on the ground and rolled several times before standing up. The shattering of his arms and sternum caused him severe injuries, and he obviously lost most of his combat effectiveness. Although Wu Yu's mana was exhausted, at least on the outside, he is still extremely brave. Crane horse. Zhang Junlin suppressed the overwhelming anger in his heart and chose to escape. Wu Yu's method of immobilization has deeply shocked him. If it weren't for this secret, Wu Yu would not be his opponent at all. Now continue to kill, even if he still has some trump cards, it is still in fatal danger, so Zhang Junlin immediately chose to blow a whistle. In the palace, a crane horse galloped towards him. Zhang Junlin immediately rode on it, turned around and flew away to the sky. Wu Yu took advantage of the victory and pursued him, but when he ran out of mana, he was a step too late, allowing Zhang Junlin to ascend to the sky. He had no spiritual beast to take his place, so he obviously couldn't do anything to him. Wu Yu. Zhang Junlin was in great pain, his eyes were blood red, and he looked at Wu Yu fiercely. In today's battle, Wu Yu had the upper hand, and the hatred between the two was finally over. Now that his mana is still recovering, it seems impossible for Wu Yu to kill them all. Being able to escape this disaster today is already considered very good. How? I am defeated. Wu Yu put away the demon-suppressing stick, and the immortal ape had transformed into a human. He stood on a piece of gravel with his upper body naked, looking up at Zhang Junlin with a sneer. Give me back the fire-gathering bead, my Xuanhuan Dao sex thing, how dare you take it? Zhang Junlin was furious. I dare to take your life, let alone the fire-gathering bead, Wu Yu smiled, and then he said, the Sheng fruit was born in Dongguo. I am the supervisor of the immortal kingdom. It was originally mine. If you give me the Sheng fruit, I will return the fire-gathering bead to you. How about it? Zhang Junlin was furious. Wu Yu, the next time we meet, it will be your death, he let out a thunderous roar. The injuries on his body did not allow him to stay here, so he clamped the crane horse and galloped away. Wu Yu looked at him leaving from a distance and couldn't help laughing. After defeating Zhang Junlin, I can finally embark on the road to becoming an immortal. The endless road in the future begins at this moment. However, he made Wu Yu suffer so much. If he did not choose to flee, I am afraid Wu Yu would kill him. /U003CE /U003E /U003CE /U003F. Follow the official QQ public account 17K, ID, Love 17K, to read the latest information at any time. /U003C/E /U003E /U003C/E /U003E. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 77. After Zhang Junlin's defeat, he mounted his crane horse and ran away immediately. Fortunately, he looked arrogant before, but now he is disgraced, which is really ridiculous. Even if you escape quickly, the pain you have put my sister through these days will be repaid to you 10 times the next time we meet. Without Tian Yunpeng to take his place, it would obviously be impossible to catch up. Furthermore, Wu Yu is now even more worried about Wu Yu's safety. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. Being on this city wall for more than 4 consecutive days, let alone women, even people with a certain level of martial arts training may not be able to withstand it. Now that the battle is over, the people of Wudu have run out of their houses to cheer. Wudu, which has been silent for several days, is now excited again. In their hearts, Wu Yu is already a myth that surpasses the founding emperor. Whoosh! Wu Yu, however, returned to Wu Yu Palace without saying a word. Now Wu Yu was recuperating in the palace. She was surrounded several times inside and outside, and most of them were warriors who vowed to die around her. Now, the news of Wu Yu's retreat from Zhang Junlin has not yet come, so the atmosphere in the courtyard is very tense. Wu Yu was half lying beside the bed. Even his stunning appearance would have faded after this torture. Wu was worried about Wu Yu and couldn't rest well at all. His pale face and long hanging hair all made me feel pity for him. Elder sister. Suddenly, a golden light burst into the room, and it was Wu Yu who was unharmed. He threw the demon-subduing stick aside, and for a moment, he only had eyes for this relative. Zhang Junlin, he has been severely injured and escaped. Wu Yu smiled faintly. Now that the storm has passed, he has become much calmer. He walked forward quickly, stretched out his arms to hug her, and vaguely felt her thin body sobbing in his arms, but this was a happy surprise, and he could feel that her tight heartstrings were completely relaxed at this time. Family love. The warmth in his arms made Wu Yu deeply realize the deep meaning of these two words. How many people can there be in this life whose blood is thicker than water? Wu Yu only has this one sister. Fortunately this time, she was safe and sound. I swear, from now on, I will never put you in danger again. Sister, no matter who it is, no one can bully you, not even monsters, ghosts, and evil gods. Whoever dares to touch you, I, Wu Yu, will fight with them. Fight to the end. This is an oath. I just want you to live well and pursue your path. Wu Yu raised his head. She was also a strong-hearted person, and her face was even more rosy at this time. Wu Yu quickly took out a fairy spirit with mild medicinal properties from the bag of me. Although it had no spirit lines, it had the magical effect of bone regeneration, muscle growth, blood circulation, and strengthening qi. Although the effect was average, it was very suitable for Wu Yu's current weakness. Take this white lingzi, recuperate for a month, and then assist with the Bohai Chang Quan I taught you, and you will be able to return to your best condition. Good. Wu Yu knew very well that only by taking good care of his body at this time could Wu Yu truly feel at ease and follow his own path. Finally, settled down. Wu Yu rested for the night. Wu Yu stayed with her all night. He didn't sleep at night, looking at the woman on the bed in trance. She is immortal, and one day she will leave me. Thinking that when he was 100 years old, he might be in his prime, but Wu Yu was already old and old, he felt an unspeakable sting in his heart. However, the cycle of life and death is a rule of heaven, and even gods cannot control it. In the morning, when Wu Yu woke up, she was already full of energy. After taking the fairy spirit, her complexion became rosier. After washing and dressing up, she returned to her usual princess appearance. However, she still looked worried and asked, Zhang Junlin was injured and escaped, but with his proud personality, what if he returns to the Xuanhuan Dao sect, looks for helpers, and comes back to deal with you? It's not impossible. Wu Yu said calmly, don't worry, if he is so shameless, I have a way to deal with him. Wu Yu trusted him very much, so he felt relieved. In fact, if Zhang Junlin really did this and invited many strong men to kill Wu Yu would really have no choice. Tian Yunpen was beheaded, and it was difficult for Wu Yu to send a message to the Bibo Mountains. If it's just Zhang Junlin himself, he will die if he comes here again. With this unparalleled body-holding technique, Wu Yu really wasn't afraid of Zhang Junlin. He planned to stay in Wudu for some time first, and wait for Wu Yu to recover before talking about anything else. In the remaining days, in addition to pondering the body fixation technique, Wu Yu finally had time to ask Ming Long for advice on his doubts. He has a huge desire for the entire monastic world. He wants to understand this world and know how many steps it takes to become an immortal. Ming Taki. You dare to call grandma by her name. Ming Long usually hides in the golden cudgel and sleeps. When he is bored, he will tease Wu Yu. Peerless little beauty. Wu Yu had no choice but to call the old witch against her will. If you fart, hurry up. Ming Tong appeared in front of him. His eyes were sleepy, but he looked a little cute. It was late at night, and Wu Yu was sitting on the top of Tianwu Palace, looking at the stars in the sky and into the distance, full of longing. You were a big shot before 1 yuan. How huge is this world? Apart from Dongsheng Shenzhou, is there anything else besides islands? Ming Long smiled slyly and said, you want to know? Certainly. She then said mysteriously, this is just quite precious information, and its value is very high. If you want to know, you and I are not related, so I can't tell you in vain, right? Seeing as we are all so rich, for the sake of the heir to the cudgel, a asking magic pill is enough. This chapter is not finished yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. She put on an expression that looked like she was taking advantage of Wu Yu. Really? This foodie and money addict refused to let go at all. He wanted to exchange anything. Sometimes he asked for magic pills, and sometimes he had other weird requests. Anyway, Wu Yu didn't dare to agree easily. He was afraid that if one day he really became an immortal, he would probably be tricked by her. You and I are dependent on each other. For the sake of our friendship, why don't you tell me about it? Wu Yu was a little unhappy. No, don't do it at a low price. Just the grand heavenly immortal technique and the body holding technique are all sold to you cheaply. Grandma, I didn't do such cheap business back then. It seemed that these two things made her regret it. Then tell me, if you want to become an immortal, you need to forge your body, condense your immortal roots, and then form a golden elixir. After that, how many more steps do you need to fly to heaven? Become a heavenly soldier and a heavenly general. This is what Wu Yu wants to know. The legend of Dongsheng Divine Continent only records the realm of the Golden Elixir Avenue, and it is very vague later on. It only talks about the core location of Dongsheng Divine Continent, where there are many existences beyond the Golden Elixir Avenue, and the world is shattered with the wave of a hand. This information is more expensive, so I won't bargain with you. 2 Phoenix Heart Pills. If you think it's okay, just charge it to our account, Ming Long said with ill intentions. Wu Yu. In the end, there was still nothing we could do against this guy. Aren't you afraid that if I promise you everything now, I won't give you anything by then? Even if I have the ability, I won't be able to bring you back to life, Wu Yu threatened. Ming Long covered his stomach, laughed loudly, and said, I am very relieved. This Ruyi Golden Cudgel has chosen you. I know what kind of character you are. As upright as you are, a person who promises 1,000 pieces of gold will not treat me like this. The little girl broke her promise. Then why did it choose you? The implication is that Ming Long lacks these qualities at all. Ming Long rolled his eyes and said, you must think I'm tired of my beauty. Why do you care so much? You poor guy doesn't even have a chi condensing pill. It's none of your business. Don't disturb my sleep. With that said, she disappeared from Wu Yu's eyes with a whoosh, refusing to appear no matter what. Forget it, let's go back and ask Master. Maybe Ming Long was right, it was just a chance encounter, neither a relative nor a friend, so why did she give herself everything and tell herself everything? From the very beginning, she made it clear that the great immortal technique was a sale, not a gift. In the days to come, I won't get much information from Ming Long. It can be roughly known that she was indeed a big shot 120,000 years ago. When her strength was close to becoming an immortal, she got the Ruyi golden cudgel, gained some inheritance, her strength increased dramatically, and she crushed the righteousness of the world. Finally, she was defeated. He died under the siege of the righteous Dao of the world. A ray of his soul was swallowed by the Ruyi golden cudgel and turned into the weird appearance he has now. He has been sleeping until Wu Yu appeared. Wu Yu wanted to become an immortal and then find a way to bring her back to life. But, how difficult is it to become an immortal? At least, this long road is endless. Wu Yu has only just embarked on this road. He cannot imagine how many thorns there are on the road ahead. About 20 days later, Zhang Junlin did not bring anyone here, but Wu Yu had almost recovered by this time. As the saying goes, a country cannot live without a king for a day. After Yuan Hao was hanged by Wu Yu, the country of Wu in Dongyu fell into a certain chaos, and neighboring countries also watched with eager eyes. On this day, Wu Yu decided to let Wu Yu ascend the throne as emperor, the first female emperor of Dongyu Wu Kingdom in history, and rule Dongyu. When Wu Yu made his decision in Wudu, no one objected, only cheers. It seems that the people have already thought of it. Wu Yu has been a talented person in governing the country since she was a child, and she is quite insightful. The late emperor also discussed state affairs with her many times. In terms of governing the country, her talent is 100 times that of Yuan Hao. Wu Yu is relieved to have Suqiao in her hands. And Wu Yu also has a chance to show his ambition. She didn't reject it, but was very happy with it. I will make this country where everyone is happy and healthy, and everyone has a smiling face. You can go and cultivate your way. Even if you come back 100 years later, and I am no longer here, my descendants will take you, let you see the most beautiful side of my hometown. On the eve of his ascension to the throne, Wu Yu said these words with tears in his eyes. Century. Only then did Wu Yu realize that although they were connected by blood, there was a gap between him and Wu Yu, and that gap was probably, Tao. Good. Only this word can express his mood. 10 days after he ascended the throne, as expected, the whole of Suqiao entered stability again. As long as Zhang Junlin didn't cause trouble, Wu Yu was prepared to stay here for a few more years to accompany Wu Yu. However, he didn't expect that 10 days later, Feng Shui would arrive in Wudu and find Wu Yu. /U003CE /U003E /U003CE /U003F. Follow the official QQ account 17K, ID, Love 17K, read early, and keep abreast of the latest information /U003C/E /U003E /U003C/E /U003E. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Feng Qingyang. Chapter 78. When Feng Xiya arrived, there was very little movement. Wu Yu was practicing in the martial army hall at that time, pondering the great heavenly immortal technique and stabilizing the two sources of magic. When his mind was immersed in this peerless magic, he suddenly heard someone calling Wu Yu. His heart trembled and he immediately opened his eyes. A golden light shot out from those eyes, stabbing the person in front of him. Master. Writing this, I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. He never expected that Feng Xiya would appear in front of him. This Feng Xiya still looks like the peerless swordsman, with a cold face, and even the white sword robe looks cold and stern, making people dare not look directly at him. The middle-aged man's handsome face would make many little girls fall in love with him. I haven't seen you for several months. Not only did you successfully condense qi, but you also stepped into the second level of qi condensation realm. Even from my perspective, it is really incredible. Beyond the severity, there was a sense of surprise and joy. You could feel a sense of pride even in his eyes. Although Feng Shui has not given him real guidance yet, Wu Yu's identity and status all come from him, and this teacher's kindness is still very important. Wu Yu smiled slightly, neither arrogant nor impetuous, and asked, "Why did Master come to Suqiao? Is there something important?" Seeing that Wu Yu got straight to the point, he stopped talking nonsense and said, "I came here this time to take you back." Go back. Logically speaking, the supervisor of the Immortal Kingdom has a 10-year term. Wu Yu needs to stay for 10 years. It has only been a few months. Feng Shui personally takes him back. Seeing Wu Yu's confusion, the other party said, "There are two reasons. First, I went to the East China Sea a few days ago and had an encounter with the 7 ghosts of the Red Sea. Regarding their disciple Ghost Ji being raped by you, they are unwilling to let go of the killing, and Wu Du will probably come looking for you, so you need to go back with me." After all, it was impossible for him to stay in Wudu to protect himself. The 7 ghosts of the Red Sea are said to be famous ghost cultivators at sea. They are all terrifying beings. They have tens of thousands of lives under their command, or even more. They are the masters of the Red Sea area. The waters of the Red Sea, there are almost a dozen Dongyu countries as big as them. Previously, Feng Shui told him not to worry about the 7 ghosts of the Red Sea, so he went there in person. Apparently, the other party had a tough attitude and did not solve the problem. Wu Yu knew that if this happened, he would really return to the Tongtian sword sect. "What about the second reason?" Wu Yu asked. Feng Shui said cautiously, "This is a big event. Some changes have occurred in the Bibo Mountains, which may lead to changes in the future situation. Because of this matter, I have ordered the recall of many disciples who have been training outside." What happened? Even Feng Xiya said it was a big deal. It must be amazing. "I'm afraid this matter is a greater threat than the 7 ghosts of the Red Sea." Feng Shui said, "This matter has something to do with you. You will find out when you go back and take a look. If we don't say it now, it would probably be difficult to explain clearly. Judging from these two things, it is a certainty that he will return to the Tongtian sword sect." He then asked, "Master, when will you leave?" "Immediately." Wu Yu didn't expect to be separated from Wu Yu so soon. After he left, if Zhang Junlin and the 7 ghosts of Shihei returned to Wudu to look for him, then Wu Yu would definitely be in trouble, especially for ghost cultivators. Care about the life and death of mortals. "What, is something wrong?" Feng Shui asked after seeing his hesitation. Wu Yu recounted the conflict between himself and Zhang Junlin, followed by Wu Yu. Feng Shui pondered for a moment, stared at Wu Yu and said, "To be honest, since I have embarked on the path of cultivating Taoism, my fate in the mortal world should be broken." "Master, it can't be stopped." He has his own attitude on this matter. Feng Shui did not insist. He said, "It's understandable. Okay, first, I will write a letter to Zhang Xie, the leader of the Xuanhuan Dao sect, and ask him to discipline his trash who is holding mortals hostage. Son. Secondly, it's a bit difficult to deal with the 7 ghosts of the Red Sea. After all, ghost cultivators are unruly and it is difficult to restrict them. Generally speaking, if they know that you have returned to the Tongtian sword sect, they will not go around to Wudu, but they are afraid of everything." He frowned and pondered for a while. "Master, do you have any treasures that can protect her? This disciple will never ask for it in vain and will definitely return it to Master in the future," Wu Yu said seriously. Yu Feng Shui glared at him and said, "As a master, how can I, Feng Shui, ask my disciples to return things? However, you are on to the point. I have a treasure here. It can be useful, but I have prepared it for you and it will be of great use to you. I respect your choice as to how you want to use it." This Feng Xiya is a proud person, but he is respected. Unexpectedly, he also prepared something for himself. The other party said no more, and took out a piece of yellow talisman paper from the bag with his palm. There were runes on the talisman paper. The runes were twisted and even changing. It was extremely mysterious and roughly showed two words. One is act and the other is protect. As soon as this talisman came out, the surrounding spiritual energy was turbulent. It was obviously interfered by this precious talisman. It was obvious that this talisman was more profound and precious than the red fire talisman and the golden flame talisman. This is the Godspeed amulet. I got it from an ancient site. It was made by a cultivator who is stronger than me. At least I can't make it. It's a life-saving thing I gave you. Once you are attacked fatally, this talisman will automatically activate, release its power, and form a spherical barrier to wrap you up. This talisman also has a tail talisman, which is a part torn off from it. As long as I put the tail talisman on my body, the Godspeed amulet will fly at high speed and bring you back to me. Keep you safe once. I have 2 of these talismans in total, one for Yan Li and one for you. At this point, he added, this Godspeed amulet flies, and you can't catch up unless you reach the Jindan Dao realm. Although it can only be used once, it is equivalent to a life. Don't you think it's a treasure? Feng Shui had good intentions. There were only 2 talisman treasures in total, and he was going to give them to his 2 young disciples. However, this time was to sever Wu Yu's earthly ties. I have explained the benefits of this treasure to you. After all, it will be given to you in the end. How you use it is up to you. The respectable thing about Feng Shui is that he will not interfere with Wu Yu's decision, which can be seen from his choice of the demon subduing stick. Wu Yu looked at this peerless swordsman. Although his voice was cold, he had a deep affection for his teacher. He remembered this favor today. He took the God-walking amulet. It was indeed a life, but Wu Yu was willing to give this life to Wu Yu. Master, I plan to give it to my sister. For mortals to use it, they need to drip blood on it and carry it with them. I'll wait for you outside Wudu. Feng Shui did not comment on his decision. Obviously, he knew Wu Yu would make such a choice. After he finished speaking, he turned and left, giving Wu Yu time to say goodbye. Thank you, Master. As the saying goes, once a teacher, a father for life. Even if Feng Shui left, Wu Yu still kowtowed and saluted. Feng Shui, who looked down on the mortal world, gave Wu Yu the treasure, and Wu Yu gave it to his sister. He did not stop him. This was a kind of favor. Something happened in the Bibo Mountains, and Feng Shui did not have much time. Wu Yu hurried to the Jing'an Palace to find Wu Yu. She was reading the scrolls left by the emperors of Dongguo in the past. After seeing her, many parting words that he thought of on the way were stuck in his throat and could not be said at all. Sister, I'm leaving. Thousands of words, just as simple as that. Okay, Wu Yu smiled slightly. She walked up, tidied Wu Yu's clothes as before, and whispered, remember to live well, I will miss you forever. Sister. This farewell is Tao and mortal. Don't be like this, it's not like we can't meet in the future, Wu Yu said. Yes, there is still a long time. Wu Yu has a group of martial arts masters to support her, and with Wu Yu's suppression, no one knows that Wu Yu has left. In this Dongyu Wu kingdom, at least no mortal can hurt her. As for the ascetics, Wu Yu scratched her skin without saying anything, dripping blood on the God-walking amulet, and then handed it to Wu Yu, saying, this is a gift from me to you. Seeing it is like seeing me. You can't let it leave your body for a moment. Even if you take a bath, you must hold it in your hand. Don't worry, it is not afraid of moisture or fire. Okay, Wu Yu took the gift. She was kind and thoughtful, so she naturally knew that this was a life-saving thing, and it was also something that would allow Wu Yu to leave with peace of mind. Go, Wu Yu patted his shoulder and smiled gently, just like Wu Yu's last expedition. In fact, it's no different from the battles you led before. It's just that what you are fighting now is the battle of ascetics. Wu Yu understood. The principle is the same, so I won't act like we are parting forever, sister, goodbye. Wu Yu turned around and strode away. Walk out of Jing'an Palace, walk out of Imperial Palace, walk out of Wu capital. Go and pursue his way to immortality. Wu Yu stood in the palace, looking at his leaving figure from afar, and unconsciously, tears soaked her clothes. \U003CE \U003E \U003CE \U003 Follow the official QQ public account 17K, ID, Love 17K, to read the latest news and get the latest information at any time \U003C/E \U003E \U003C/E \U003E. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 79. Sword Flying. It was not just the first time for Wu Yu to stand on the sword of Feng Xia, but this was also the first time for him to travel a long distance. Flying among thousands of miles of clouds, white clouds passing by, and even birds accompanying you, riding the wind and waves, the world is free. This feeling is so good. Such speed made Wu Yu cautious, and he was so frightened that he almost squatted down and hugged the sword. It is much faster than Tianyun Peng. The ascetics, especially the sword Immortals, wield swords in the rivers and lakes, slaying demons, flying among the clouds, going up to the sky and down to the earth, with their sword energy soaring into the sky. How carefree they are. For me, flying with a sword is still too far away. It requires reaching the golden elixir realm. I'm afraid it will take more than a few decades to achieve that achievement. Wu Yu felt very envious. Under his feet, there was originally a golden long sword. Now under Feng Shui's control, the long sword expanded its golden light and shadow, and it looked like a giant sword, 3 feet long and 2 feet wide, almost like a ship. A boat flying in the sky. When you go back, I will give you a mountain peak. After becoming a core disciple, you will also be qualified to learn sword control and some simple Taoist techniques. Some Taoist techniques are not used for attack. For example, Zhang Junlin's method of growing vines on the city wall and Haoshan Immortals' method of inducing water in the pool are not offensive at all. These Taoist techniques are easy to learn. Each core disciple has dozens of choices. Even if his qualifications are stupid, it won't take much time to learn them all. Such as, climbing skills, fire making skills, body purification skills, dust removal skills, psychic skills, etc. Sword control skills are considered the most difficult among them. However, the sword driving skills in the Qi condensation realm can only control swords and penetrate the void to grasp things, but they cannot fly. Although these are simple techniques that can be used in daily life, such as the body purification technique and the dust removal technique, which can make a disgraced self clean and tidy with just one technique, they are also quite unbelievable to ordinary people. Magical method. Speaking of cultivation, Feng Shui, with his hands behind his back and his long hair flying like a real fairy, turned back, stared at Wu Yu's 2 magic sources, and said, I brought you a Qi condensation technique, but it seems that you have already practiced it, so there is no need for it. Yes. However, thank you, master. In fact, Feng Shui is very thoughtful. As a master, everything has been prepared for him. Perhaps in his eyes, Wu Yu, who continues to create miracles but is also unruly, has a shadow of his youth. It seems that Sun Wuodao has left you a rather remarkable inheritance. Feng Shui suddenly stretched out his hand, and the palm of his hand covered Wu Yu's forehead at the shenting point. Suddenly, Wu Yu felt a mana penetrate him, as if it was a sword, piercing into the shenting point. Wandering in the source of one's own law. Of course, Wu Yu will not be hurt. Your qi condensation technique is not too overbearing, but it seems to have strong regeneration power. It is really expensive. It is better than the technique I used when I was condensing qi. Feng Shui put away his palm and said very a fair comment. Hey, that's because the power of the grand celestial immortal technique has not been fully demonstrated yet, otherwise I will scare the shit out of this guy, Ming Long said with a high voice in his body. Wu Yu was too lazy to talk to her. Feng Shui pondered for a while and said, Sun Wudao is amazing. He gave you a top-notch body refining method that is unparalleled in the world. Now he has given you a pretty good qi condensing method. What about you? I can't tell the extent of inheritance, at least it's no less than what I gave to your senior brothers and sisters. In this case, when you go out, sometimes you need to know how to cover up, don't expose all your methods, so as not to be exposed to others. Jealousy, you know. This is his experience. As the saying goes, wealth should not be exposed. The common man is not guilty, but he is guilty of carrying the jade. Disciple understands. To be honest, if I were younger and hadn't completed qi condensation yet, I would have been malicious when I saw that you had such a good thing. It is not easy to practice a method. Who doesn't want a better method? This world is cruel, you should also have some idea of what to do next, so be careful. Feng Shui was very frank, which made Wu Yu respect him even more. Although the relationship between master and apprentice is still shallow, he was the benefactor who saved him 3 times. Those 3 times alone were enough for Wu Yu to repay him in his lifetime. However, you are my disciple of Feng Shui. As long as I, Feng Shui, am still here, I will protect you. You can rise to the top and fight with the sword. You have to restrain yourself and keep a low profile. You should wait until the master gets old. Feng Shui suddenly smiled. Obviously, he was very satisfied with Wu Yu this time. Sure enough, he was more protective than expected. Of course, this is a great thing for Wu Yu. From Wuta to the Bibo Mountains, it won't take long at the speed of Feng Shui. Wu Yu hadn't spent enough time on the clouds. Under the clouds, the magnificent mountains and rivers of the Bibo Mountains appeared. Looking around, he could see countless peaks and palaces. There were cranes and sky clouds flying between the mountains, faintly visible. You can also see long swords flying in the clouds and mist, colorful drills swaying, even thunder flashing, strong winds sweeping, and all kinds of immortal methods blooming like fireworks on the blue waves of the mountains. The Tongtian Peak, which reaches straight into the sky, the glazed Tianshan Mountain, which is like a snow-capped gem, the Duxian Peak with a sword slanting towards the clouds, the lofty and majestic Deodao Peak, the prosperous and magnificent Tuobeo Valley, and the mountains for teaching and enforcing the law, all appear here. In front of you. This is the majestic and popular Tongtian sword sect. Although Wu Yu has only been here for a short time, this is his second home. Here is Sun Wudao, Feng Xia, Su Yanli, Qing Mang. To be honest, he has fallen deeply in love with the magnificent mountains and rivers here. This is the place where his dreams set sail. This chapter is not finished yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. What I'm saying is that the major events in the Bibo Mountains have a lot to do with you. You need to be mentally prepared. Feng Xia planned to take Wu Yu somewhere directly. Yes. After saying that, he lowered his speed, entered the Blue Mountains from above, passed through several layers of clouds, and reached the range of the Tongtian sword sect. What difference did you notice? Feng Shui asked just after he came in and was still flying with his sword. Different. Wu Yu looked at the mountains and rivers. There were lush trees, a big river running in the valley, and the singing of birds and the fragrance of flowers. Everything is the same as before. But there is a difference. I discovered how the aura of the Bibo Mountains can be so strong. In fact, I just came back from the barren land of Suchao and found that the spiritual energy here is very rich. That is normal, but the problem is that the spiritual energy here is so rich that it is unbelievable. It's almost like a miracle. Being in such a spiritual environment, Wu Yu felt refreshed. Even just one breath was like taking in a breath of sweet rain. If a group of mortals stayed here, it would not be a problem for all of them to live a long life. In such an aura environment, even the pores on his body can absorb it, and the two sources of energy on his body rotate rapidly, allowing Wu Yu to maintain a perfect state at all times. This concentration of spiritual energy must be at least twice as high as before. Wu Yu said in astonishment. In fact, he had read the legend of Dongsheng Shenzhou and knew that under the blue waves of the mountains, there was a place where several spiritual veins converged and burst out. So it became a fairy mountain and established the Tongtian sword sect. The gathering of these spiritual veins has a history of countless thousands of years. Generally, the changes in the underground spiritual veins are very small. Every major change takes at least tens of thousands of years to complete. Such a sudden change is simply impossible. You're wrong, it's already 3 times. And it's still increasing, Feng Shui said while leading him forward. 3 times. Wu Yu felt incredible. Do you know what this concept is? Feng Shui said. Wu Yu was stunned for a moment. Only sects, forces, and clans with at least 3 times the strength of the Tongtian sword sect can have such a mountain gate, Feng Shui said. Is this a good thing? After hearing this, Wu Yu probably understood the reason why Feng Shui summoned his disciples to return. It's a good thing. As long as we seize the opportunity, our Tongtian sword sect will naturally become more than 3 times stronger, Feng Shui sneered. At this time, he seemed to have brought Wu Yu to Yan Lifeng. After arriving here, Wu Yu discovered that this place, the aura of the place is actually stronger than that of other places, almost 4 times as much as before. It is difficult to put into words the benefits of this place for ascetics. Master. The elegant Su Yanli in white, Mo Shisha dressed as a scholar, and many elders were gathered here. Wu Yu fell down the snowy cliff and looked around. He immediately found that this was near Sun Wudeo's tomb, and Sun Wudeo's the tomb should be surrounded by people. Junior brother, you are back. We miss you so much. I heard that you killed a ghost cultivator at the 2nd level of chi condensation over there. You are so awesome. Mo Shisha shook his folding fan. Come forward in a hurry. Get out of here. Feng Shui glared at him. Mo Shisha chuckled. He had long been familiar with Feng Shui's temper, so he moved out of the way, and then winked at Wu Yu, which was very funny. Wu Yu's current attention was completely attracted by the front. Uncle Sun. When the crowd dispersed in front of him, Wu Yu could clearly see that the tomb he had built for Sun Wudeo, both the tombstone and the coffin, had disappeared. Instead, there was a deep pit, about 1 foot wide. When he looked down, you can't even see the bottom of this deep pit. How so? Who dug the cave here? Where is my grandson's body? Where is the tombstone? Wu Yu suddenly became excited. This was the old man he respected the most. He gave him everything. Junior brother, don't get excited. Listen to me. Su Yanli stepped forward, and when he saw her beautiful and peaceful face, Wu Yu relaxed a little. No one touched your grandson's tombstone. This thing is simply unbelievable. One day, I heard some movement here. After I came over quickly, I found that the tombstone and other items had disappeared. Instead, there was this deep pit, and then there was a large amount of spiritual energy spurted out from here, forming a spiritual energy fountain here. It is this spiritual energy fountain that makes the Bibo Mountains have such spiritual energy now. I once thought that the tombstone was caused by the spiritual energy fountain, but I looked carefully. Nothing was found nearby. No wonder Feng Shui said that this matter had something to do with him. It turned out to be the case. Sun Wudeo's tomb disappeared, and the spiritual veins of the entire Bibo Mountains underwent incredible changes, forming a fountain here and gushing out. How so? Sun Wudao's tomb and coffin were gone, and Wu Yu didn't know how to explain to Sun Wudao. /U003CE /U003E /U003CE /U003F. Follow the official QQ account 17K, ID, Love 17K, read early, and keep abreast of the latest information /U003C/E /U003E /U003C/E /U003E. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 80. After searching, there are no traces of Sun Wudao's body, coffin, tombstone, etc. in the entire Bibo Mountains. I don't know the reason, maybe it's because it was washed away by spiritual energy and turned into powder. Feng Xia said. Although spiritual energy generally does not cause such an effect, this change in spiritual veins is incredible, and such an effect can be explained. Wu Yu, don't be sad. The deceased is gone. This is not something you can control. Sun Wudao won't blame you. Seeing his downcast expression, Su Yanli consoled him. Clear. In the final analysis, I still didn't choose the location to build his tomb. He didn't have the ability to predict the future, so naturally he couldn't imagine such a result. Uncle Sun is a strange person. Let's just think of this aura fountain as his gift to the Blue Mountains. Wu Yu could think about it. In this way, for him, as long as he felt this rich spiritual energy, he could think of the old man. The gushing spiritual energy is indeed exciting. Relying on this majestic spiritual energy, the Tongtian sword sect will definitely become more powerful, so you can vaguely see joy on the faces of several elders around them. At this time, Na Minglong suddenly said, "This is strange," 3 times. The spiritual veins here have been changed. Being able to change the trend of the spiritual veins is not something ordinary people can do. How powerful does it take to do it? Wu Yu was surprised. It turned out that this was not a change of heaven and earth, but a man-made change. Anyway, he is much more powerful than your master. However, it may also be the natural change of the spiritual veins. In this endless world, everything is possible. Just like a small village can have delicacies that will make me linger for a long time. Wu Yu would rather believe that this is a natural change of the spiritual veins. Otherwise, how could there be the kind of existence that Minglong mentioned to change the spiritual veins here? Wu Yu. At this time, Feng Xia took out a map in front of everyone. It was a map of the Bibo Mountains, depicting many peaks and buildings in the Bibo Mountains, including some forbidden areas. Some of the peaks circled in red are the peaks of core disciples. Most of them have a tick in the circle, proving that someone has already moved in. You have successfully condensed Qi. According to the regulations, I will give you a mountain peak, Feng Shui said seriously. All the elders looked over, carefully looked at Feng Shui, the youngest disciple, and marveled. He let Wu Yu choose. It was an honor to have a peak here. Wu Yu quickly stepped forward. He first saw Yan Life Peak and found that there was an empty peak near Yan Life Peak, so he chose this place directly. Logically speaking, the spiritual energy fountain is at Yan Lifeng Peak. The closer you get to Yan Lifeng Peak, the richer the spiritual energy will be and the greater the benefit to your practice will be. Very good. Feng Shui was very satisfied and put a check mark in the red circle. 1 or 2 elders next to them sighed. They also wanted to leave the best mountain to the disciples they trained. The previous owner of this mountain has passed away for more than 10 years. Please give it a new name. For example, Yan Lifeng was named after Su Yanli. Back then, Situ Minglang got a mountain peak, and it was called Ali Peak. For the outer disciples of the Tongtian sword sect, it is such a joy and honor to have a mountain of their own, name it by themselves, dress it up by themselves, have their own fairy beast garden, fairy spirit garden, and their own world. Many people dream of this. Wu Yu thought for a moment and realized that the inheritor was the Monkey King Kishan. The word Kishan suddenly popped up, and he said, let's call it Kishan Peak. What a good name. It's as powerful as Tongtian Peak, but not as sentimental as my Windflower, Snow and Moon Peak, Namo Shishu said proudly, waving his folding fan. Good. This place is not far from Kishan Peak, Wu Yu can just go there by himself. Wu Yu, congratulations. Su Yanli smiled faintly at the side, like a white lotus. She was the one who witnessed Wu Yu's growth. Now that you are back, practice with peace of mind. If you have any doubts, you can ask your senior brother or sister, Feng Shui explained. Yes, master. There are some small ways in our Tongtian sword sect, with a total of 99 kinds. Dust repelling techniques, body purification techniques, water purification techniques and sword controlling techniques are all included in them. They are collectively called the left Dao techniques, which will be discussed later. It will be good for you to take some time to think about it. Thank you, master. Although they are said to be devious techniques, those 99 techniques are considered to have many wonderful uses. As long as you have magic power and ponder for a period of time, you can learn them. If you learn them all, you can even use them in battle. It is very mysterious. Some mortals rely on some side tricks to make fire with their bare hands, and they can deceive in the mortal world, and it is difficult to be exposed. In the past, Wu Yu was busy with revenge and didn't have much time to delve into these things. There is one more thing, Feng Shui said again. Master, please speak. After each of your 4 senior brothers and sisters succeeded in condensing qi, I gave you a Taoist technique, and you are no exception. However, your situation is special. I am afraid that I do not have the most suitable Taoist technique for you, so I will choose a slightly less suitable one. Therefore, I give you a chance to choose. Either I will choose a Taoist technique for you, or you can challenge the Taoist pagoda by yourself, go into the Sutra Pavilion and choose the first Taoist technique by yourself. Technique. To be honest, the first Taoist skill is more important than the first magical weapon. Lan Huayun chose the thunder control technique for Situ Ming Lang, which is extremely powerful. Feng Xi gave Wu Yu 2 choices just like choosing a magic weapon. This chapter is not over, please click on the next page to continue reading. Master, I choose to challenge the Tao Pagoda. It is recorded in Bibo Mountains Chronicles that there is a Daodao Peak next to Tongtian Peak, and there is a Daodao Tower on the top of Daodao Peak. The Daodao Tower has a total of 9 floors. Core disciples can challenge the Taoist Pagoda. After each level you challenge, you can enter the corresponding Sutra Pavilion and choose a Taoist skill. In each floor of the Daodao Tower, there is a door leading to the Sutra Pavilion. The Sutra Pavilion also has 9 floors. It is the place where Tongtian Sword Sect stores Taoist techniques and many other strange and important techniques. Wu Yu is like this. He wants to choose through his own efforts. Although Feng Xi's offer is definitely not bad, he wants to rely on himself for the path of cultivating Taoism. In fact, it is precisely because of this that Feng Shui appreciates this youngest disciple even more. Very good. In addition, you are a core disciple and my direct disciple. Every month, you can go to the Transfer Mountain to see Elder Muj and receive 2 qi condensing pills and a number of fairy spirits. Ordinary core disciples can only receive 1 per month. Wu Yu has not made any contributions to the sect for the time being, and Feng Shui cannot give him everything. This will break the sect's rules and make other disciples feel unhappy. This is the sect's rule. Okay, you go to Kishan Peak to rest first. Feng Shui waved his hand and told Wu Yu to leave. They are probably leaving too, and they are busy with their own things. Wu Yu left directly. He went to the fairy beast garden in Yan Lifeng to borrow a crane and arrived at Kishan Peak. Since no one had lived here for 10 years, it was a bit desolate. Wu Yu went to Wangtian Peak first. After recruiting 10 of his own handymen, he went to pick up another 90 handymen, and arranged for them to clean and rest Qi Tianfeng. Only then did Qi Tianfen become popular. In the future, he will build his own fairy beast garden, fairy spirit garden and so on. There are more than 10 palaces in Qishanfeng. Some of the side halls and small halls are for the residence of miscellaneous servants. There are mainly several palaces belonging to Wu Yu, which are used for welcoming guests, practicing martial arts, sleeping quarters, storage and other functions. There are some miscellaneous things that cannot fit in the Meiji bag, so there must be a place to store them. Among them, Wu Yu had handed over the soul-calling flag to Feng Shui on the way, and the ghost-cultivating magic weapon was destroyed by Feng Shui in front of him and thrown away. There is also a bag of rice that I plan to give to Qingmang the next time I see her. Among them, he named the largest and best-equipped palace, Qishan Palace, which was used for cultivating Taoism and practicing martial arts. After condensing qi, I changed from a mortal to a cultivator, so I ate less and slept less. Eating earthly grains is harmful to the body, but it is not as good as the spiritual energy of heaven and earth to nourish the body. The qi condensation realm is the transformation from a mortal to a cultivator. It is said that once you reach the golden elixir realm, you can never sleep. When Qi Tianfeng got into the rhythm, Wu Yu finally felt at peace. From now on, just cultivate my way with peace of mind. He still has great enthusiasm for the future. The spiritual energy is indeed rich. It is 3 times more than before. It is second only to Yan Lifeng. In the past, the places with the most spiritual energy in the Bibo Mountains were Tongtian Peak and Tongtian Immortal Palace, but now they are at Qinjianli Peak. Uncle Sunday. It's a good thing that his spiritual energy has greatly increased, but he will never be able to accompany him next to his tombstone in the future. Maybe, he is in this aura that fills the sky. The moisture like sweet rain seemed to make Wu Yu see his existence. After a day's rest, Wu Yu was ready to challenge the Tao Pagoda. But at this time, Su Yanli, who was not far away, came over. /U003CE /U003E /U003CE /U003F. Follow the official QQ account 17K, ID, Love 17K, read early, and keep abreast of the latest information /U003C /E /U003E /U003C /E /U003E